is episode number 76, and today we're going to talk about the art of giving and receiving. My name is Deborah Henson-Conant, and I'm here with Kathleen Wiley. I am a composer and a performer, and Kathleen is a Jungian psychoanalyst, and we both play the harp. And so we call this Jung at Harp. And what we are always exploring in Jung at Harp is the art of conversation. And we were talking about that today and how it's so different to be in conversation and to be opening that conversation to you as well, because so often people who are listening are also joining the conversation through the chat and through the comments. And that a conversation is about at least two people connecting and not just there to give information, advice, opinion, or entertainment. Mm-hmm. It is about the art of giving and receiving and being in the middle of that. And what I love so much about conversation and open conversation is that you don't know what is going to come out of it. In the end, it's not so much what I receive from you or I give to you or what you receive from me, but what comes through that conversation that neither of us could have anticipated before the conversation began. It's almost like that gift comes from somewhere else. It comes from the space that is us, any two us. Mm-hmm. So I would love to open up this conversation in the spirit of jazz, meaning when we're playing with others, when we're playing jazz with others, it's an improvisatory form. And the beauty is to be able to play and listen at the same time. And when we do play, to play into the resonance of what has just happened, rather than, this is my thing I'm going to throw in there. So I actually don't know what we are going to talk about today, but I don't have specific, like, I'm going to talk about this. We're here to talk about a subject, giving, the spirit and the art of giving and receiving. So Kathleen, what do you have to say about that?
Well, there's so much. You've done a great job of articulating what is important. And for those of you who are joining us today, you know that we're coming up now about 2 weeks from Christmas, and that there's lots of gift giving that happens. And so DHC and I were kind of playing with that. And what we often also find during the holidays, with all of those celebrations where we see family and people we only see once or twice a year, that one of the frustrating and stressful things is we don't really feel heard sometimes, that we don't feel like there is this spirit of giving and receiving in terms of meeting one another in presence. So from a psychological point of view, what we are talking about is the capacity to engage with an other, a someone who is separate and different, in a different place with different thoughts, different feelings. And that true conversation allows a moment of meeting where you're offering where you're at. I allow myself to receive it, hear it, not just with my ears and my brain, but to hear it with my heart and my gut, and to let myself be impacted by it. And out of that, then something emerges that I offer back. And when you can allow yourself to receive it, be impacted by it, again, hear it not just with your brain, but your heart and your gut, then you respond and offer something. And that's how we begin to really meet one another and feel met. And that is the gift of the art of conversation, is that we feel met and we meet the other.
Kathleen, it's really interesting because when you started talking about meeting with family, and I started thinking, right, that's a situation where we're meeting with people who we've met with many, many, many times before. And it's easy to get complacent about it. Like, oh, this person is going to say that. Oh, God, they're going to say that again. And I was just thinking about it, and I was thinking, oh, this is so interesting. We've had this conversation many times, you and I, not this conversation, but a conversation. I thought, wow, what if I'm looking for something new? What if I'm
Mhm.
looking for something I've never seen in you? What if I'm looking for how I can listen, how I can really almost like be in the listening, be so connected to listening that I will hear things I've never heard before? What if I hear something beneath that? Like as you were speaking, I was thinking, okay, wow, I probably won't be physically with my family this year, but you might. Wonder what your family dynamics were like around the
Mhm.
holidays, when you were younger. And I wonder what tensions and, um, you know, what anxieties people had in being around their families. And I do know this. I do know that when we're in a situation of giving gifts or receiving gifts, there can be so much anxiety around being accepted, being acknowledged, regardless of which side you're on. For example, I remember years ago, I had these great aunts who would always send me these presents I did not understand. They would
Mhm.
send me a doll. I was not a doll person. I didn't understand the dolls. And I had no idea how to engage. All I experienced was, you obviously don't know me. Why did you give me these? What? I really couldn't see the value of the connection,
Mm.
of that. I was simply it was simply a moment that they were giving me something that said, I love you, I'm thinking about you, you're in
Mhm.
my thoughts. It was like an engagement. It was like open, like, here, um call me back, or I don't know, something like that. It was I was just like, that's a doll I don't like, rather than, that is a way of saying I love you.
Right. Was this as an adult or as a child?
This is a child.
As a yeah,
Yeah.
but I want to, as in our conversation today, I want to make a distinction also between our responses as children and our responses as adults.
Mhm.
Because as children, we are still coming out of this psychological, energetic place of feeling as if we're the center of the world and the world is an extension of us.
Uh-huh.
And when we don't get that, i.e., we get a gift that doesn't fit, we have a response based on well, everybody should know me. How dare they? Blah, blah, blah. And we don't have the largesse of self to be able to realize that maybe there's something else they're offering other than what we expect, other than what it is that we think would be an expression of love and an appropriate gift. And this is what then becomes a problem as adults in relationships, where someone gives us a gift and it's not what we expected, it's not what we wanted. And so then we diss it. And we are reacting out of that place as if it only has value if it comes from within us, instead of, you know what, here I am and I have value and there's a separate other, and what they come up with has value too. And narcissism is such a popular word anymore in our culture, but what we are talking about when people are caught in that is a primary narcissism. There's no capacity to relate to an other as separate, so thus they're not able to receive and be impacted and then give back in a relational way.
It's really, I'm listening to you and I'm being completely distracted by all kinds of things that are coming up
Okay.
on the screen. And I'm thinking about what that, I'm going to hit a do not disturb. And I'm thinking that this is one of the first principles of a conversation, is that we're
Mm-hmm.
really in the conversation, and that we do that I do, whatever I need to make sure that I am in that
Mm-hmm.
conversation. And as you were talking, I was very emotional when you said, we don't know what that person is offering. And I realized that, it's funny because I was like, okay, so when we're talking, we're not giving info, advice, opinion, or entertainment. That's not the point. But I also realized when you said that if I'm looking for info, advice, opinion, or entertainment, I'm not seeing what that person is offering. And that person may not be expert well, I know how to say what I'm offering. We are not always expert at that. And I just, as you were talking, I just thought of the beauty of the engagement of what is that person offering?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of love? What kind of love is here in this? Because I have to believe that in everything, even maybe the least kind thing that might happen, there must be some love if I could see it. I don't know. I'm just thinking that.
Yeah, well, I mean, whether there is or there isn't, I think
Uh-huh.
that maybe what you're saying is you realize that if you can open to receive whatever's coming your way as a bit of the other person extending themselves to you
Mm.
and sharing themselves with you, which typically we do associate with love, then that may change your attitude to getting the gift or getting the doll or the hand drawn card or the whatever it is. That somewhere you begin to realize it's not so much about the object but about the connection. And Harp to Heart is sharing a comment here
Let's pull that up.
about connection.
Mhm.
Yeah, she says, I still have anxiety about gift giving holidays from childhood.
Yep.
I am much better about spontaneous gifting because it feels more authentic. And she also says, also felt no connection to dolls.
I, I,
Yeah, so
is
that,
this thing that looks like a person, but it doesn't. But
yeah. So often in spontaneous giving, what happens is in that moment we extend ourselves. We feel a warmth, we feel a relational meeting, and we want to offer something of ourselves. And so we do it. And maybe that offering is a comment, maybe it's a compliment, maybe it's a gift that we buy, maybe it's something that we make. But that spontaneity overrides all the defenses where our head disconnects from our heart and our gut. And then we start trying to figure it out through reason and logic. And then we're down the rabbit hole of the shoulds, must, and ought tos we've internalized from our family, our church, our schools, and the media of all places.
well, it's interesting that you're saying that because at the same time, I'm thinking, okay, as a musician, there and as a creator, there are times when when I need to actually take the inspiration that's there or take the moment that's there and look into it for inspiration. So let me put our caption back on if I can find
Yeah.
it. So I was thinking about that, and I was thinking. So one of the things that I'm doing next weekend on Sunday is I have this training. This is a free training on how to make a holiday HARP card or a holiday video card, a holiday greeting card. And it's this thing I'm passionate about this. I'm passionate. And you mentioned the hand drawn card. I love hand drawn cards, like way
Mm-hmm.
better than others. But I am passionate about the musical greeting. This is something that my family always, for birthdays, the greeting would always, you'd always get a phone call and be like, "Hello, I have a telephone call for," and you'd for so and so and so and so. And in the back in the 60s and 70s, you could actually fool somebody. Like you could fool my grandmother. She'd be like, "Oh, yes, is this a collect call?" "No, this is not a collect call." And then she'd finally be like, "Oh, all right." Oh, and it just occurred to me she might have been messing with my head. I might not have been fooling her at all. Anyway, and then you'd be, "Happy birthday to you, happy," whatever we were singing. And and now this idea of being able to use social media in a
Mm-hmm.
one-on-one way instead of having to make instead of, I guess I feel like it's almost radical. Let's take YouTube, and instead of trying to get as many hits as possible, can I get one direct connect hit?
Yeah.
Meaning, when I make one video for one person, telling that one person what I love about them and combining, whatever skills I have, and it doesn't really matter, just so that I am using music and language to create love rather than to be like, hey, look how good I am. Let me entertain. And so I kind of went off on a tangent there. And take it away, Kath. Take it up. Make that make sense.
Well, but I think that what you're saying, in a way, your passion for the musical greeting card is something that is rooted for you in your childhood calling of your grandmother,
All right.
and that it is a radical idea to take it all. Well, I'll say it this way. I think it's always radical when we make a commitment or hold intention that with whatever resources we have in our life, we're going to use it for our highest good and the highest good of all those around us. We're not going to use it for subversive purposes. We're not going to use it out of greed or selfishness, but we are going to use it. We're going to use it to build people up and to support what needs to grow and to create something that's life-giving. And so the idea that you use YouTube to post one card for one person who can access that one card, that it is a way we can be connected, just like we're connected to those of you watching and joining in on the chat this morning, that back in the 60s and 70s we didn't have. And so that there's an opportunity to share and meet one another in this etheric place that the internet ethers offer us, but yet that we also feel in our body mind. It's not just that we're having an intellectual exchange, but that we're actually feeling and being changed by the interactions we're having with one another.
Yeah, that's really interesting, especially now that, so many of us are in sort of physical isolation, still in physical isolation, that we can actually use these tools. And for me, to use these tools that are like YouTube can be all about showing a part of ourselves that is glitzy, or hey, look how great I am, or whatever it is, or whatever social media we use. But it can also be used to cultivate vulnerability and cultivate a one-on-one connection, because it is it can be so anxiety provoking even just to give a gift, to give the gift and to wonder, did someone like that? Was it good enough? Are they going to be judging me? What's going to happen here? In what spirit is that gift going to be given? And to try to be as open as possible in both the giving and the receiving. Elizabeth is writing here, I had surgery Monday and I'm feeling a little better each day. I feel guilty. Interesting. I'm guilty because I'm not 100% yet. So the giving on my part is lacking. One of my friends from HARP school sent me flowers. It blew me away by her kindness. And what I'm hearing here that I love is when we do give a gift, like your friend gave a gift, for her or him to know how blown away you are by that kindness, for them to know that was seen and loved and appreciated and that it landed. To me, that is part of the music, of the musicality of engaging in the giving and the receiving, to be able to actually receive. And it, it's funny, I feel guilty because I'm not 100% yet. So the giving on my part is lacking. And yet, so often it is the receiving that is where we really need to be more present.
Well, what I'm thinking is that you're receiving the gift is what you're giving, and your gratitude and being touched by the gift is what you're giving. And I'm thinking about when John and I first got married almost 10 years ago. I would be scurrying around trying to cake things, and he would say, "Let me help you." And I'm just so used to zoom, 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 taking care of it myself, that the idea of receiving his help, whether it was to wash the dishes or it was to do this errand for me or whatever, it's just like I was so on go. I'm just like, get out of the way and I'll do it quicker, And I wasn't receiving what he was offering, which was something really so much more than the doing of the task.
It was the
And so
connection, right? It
it
was
was the
your connection in the
connection.
development of
Yeah.
the relationship. I
Yeah.
think
So
that's so important that
yeah.
in this the giving and receiving in Strings of Passion I talk about roles, and I talk about leadership and fellowship, and how powerful fellowship is, meaning when we are actually engaging, when someone's leading and we're really following, like in an orchestra, if a conductor is leading and we are truly
Mm-hmm.
following that, there is a lot of connection in that. I have just a practical question here. Somebody said something, I don't know what it means. Let me go back here. They said VOYFYI. I don't know what that means. VOYFYI. Something for my information. I don't know what it means.
Yeah.
And Harp to Heart is saying, I'll bring that up. Whoops. Okay, I'm getting more messages and I have no idea what they mean. So, uh, whatever. Anyway, there can be no givers if there are no receivers. Allowing people to give to you can be a
Yes.
blessing to them.
That's
Yeah,
right.
absolutely. And it's funny. I'm looking at these two things. I'm looking here's something that makes sense to me. We're getting these other messages on the chat that I just don't understand. And it's funny how, I don't know if there's a tech problem or something like that. And and but I just want to take a minute to talk about the spirit in which we both give and receive. So there's a story that I often tell about a friend who years ago who had a gift for me, and we were just sitting in the room, and he was like, I just remembered I had a present for you, and he threw them across the room, and they landed in front of me, and they were brown gloves, and I was like, I burst into tears. I burst into tears because I that's all I am to you, brown gloves. Um, what's meaningful?
Mm-hmm.
Why that story is meaningful to me is because I'm realizing that when we do give gifts, truly being willing to be vulnerable when we give them and to be clear about why we're giving them, that and this is where sort of the video greeting card comes in. You're barely giving anything. You're giving a little hello, but it can mean so much when we are vulnerable about why we are giving. For example, I realized that if he had said, I don't have a wrapping for this, and I want to give it to you without a wrapping because I want to be in this relationship without any wrapping. I want to be authentic and clear. I'm giving you brown gloves because brown is like the earth, and you are the earth to me. You are the foundation. And I'm giving you gloves because I love your hands, and I want to give you something that I that feels like they could be near your hands at all the time as I would want to be. So the gift itself would have a completely different meaning. And I think this is the beauty, and it's kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, which is to be able to see newly, like even as I see you, or the gift of a
Mm-hmm.
person, to be able to have that a new part of it unlocked, or the beauty of it, or the understanding of how it unlocks us. And how can we share that in everything we share? So, no, the gift does not speak for itself. We have the opportunity to speak for the gift.
Yeah, and what you said about the holiday greeting card, you're barely giving anything at all. Yes, if you just throw it at the person like the brown gloves were
Right,
thrown at
right.
you, or you're giving everything of yourself, if there's a heartfelt intention and a care taken in the creation of that card, and a communicating of it. I mean, I think again, we're back really to that the art of conversation is very much dependent on the spirit of giving and receiving. That if there's truly going to be a meeting and a gift giving, then there has to be this exchange and a presence. The object in itself is not the gift, as you said, that most of us are looking for. The gift that we're looking for is that sense of felt connection, that someone's holding us in their mind and heart and soul, and that they know us and that they care and that they've taken time and put thought into something for us. Not that we've been a last minute kind of grab off the shelf. And so it,
Feeling like an
again,
obligation, feeling the feel
right.
as if it's an obligation, right? Because it truly is is an opportunity to connect. But even if it's at the last minute, even if you have very few resources, I mean, what you talked about was to take the resources that we have. And what I think is so beautiful is that when we do take the resources that we have, we start opening them up. They start blooming. And as as you were talking, I was just thinking that the real gift is for us to be able to see more of that person, more of who they are, to experience more through this gift, whatever it is.
Right. And to share ourselves in the receiving of it. I mean,
Oh,
again,
oh, I
because
see.
even as,
Okay.
yeah,
So the gift is almost just the point of contact. And the
right.
whole point of that is sorry, I'm like, duh. Oh, I see. Gifts are just for saying that I love you. I mean, gifts are just for sharing that human connection on
Mm-hmm.
both sides.
Mm-hmm. That's right. It's like we might say the gift is what Winnicott would have, the psychiatrician Winnicott would have called um, a transitional object.
Can you
You
talk
know,
about that? I was wanting to bring this. I was like, what would Jung say about that? Can you bring this into that realm that you know so well, Kathleen?
yeah, well, Jung would have talked about it perhaps as a uniting third, but Winnicott uses a phrase called a transitional object, which means that the object connects us to something of the larger self. So that, for instance, the musical greeting card, for those of us who are harpists and do it on our harp, the harp perhaps, as you've talked before, is an extension of you. So the harp connects you to yourself. And as you are more connected to yourself, you're then able to offer a heartfelt expression for whomever the card is for. So then the card becomes this transitional object that sends your care and love and warmth towards that person to them. So it's like the transitional object, and Jung would have talked about it also as a symbol, that a symbol is the best expression of that which is only dimly discerned, that something that's truly a symbol pulls us forward towards something we don't fully comprehend. And let's face it, who fully comprehends love or human relationships? I don't.
Well, I want to go back to this. So just so people understand what a musical greeting card is. It's just something
Yeah.
it's very, very, very simple. I mean, it's basically, I'll put this harp into the normal key. I can't guarantee it's in tune because I'm in my little studio, but it's basically just, some kind of, I'm reaching out to you today just to let you know how much I love you and how much of a gift you are to me in this season.
Mhm.
And I just want to play a really, I just want to play an arpeggio. I just want to have my fingers speaking to you because this is such a big part of my life that my hands can speak as well as that my voice can speak.
Mm.
I just say, I'm thinking of you. You're in my mind. I'm telling you, I love you. And that's the whole message. So That would be a greeting card, or the greeting card might be more simple. And I think and so this is my language. I'm comfortable here, but even if I wasn't, I could literally play one note. I can barely play the harp. I'm only using two fingers, but I want those two fingers and everything in my heart to tell you that I love you and I'm thrilled every time I think that you are in my life.
Beautiful.
That's also a musical greeting card. It doesn't require, but what it does require, and I think this is the hardest, is the reveal. You said the words, you're revealing, or I wrote them down, and you said heartfelt, and being able to feel safe enough to speak in that way. And that's one of the reasons that I like making each one individually, and I just keep doing them, and why I love teaching people how to do them is because it is learning how to take simple skills and let the harp be a platform for our creative expression and our authentic personal love.
Yeah, this is reminding me that Jung talks about how when we encounter our affects, our strong
Mhm.
emotions, that we can respond to them by making meaning of them, which usually involves the cognitive function as well as the heart connection. And we can respond to them or express them through creative formulations. And so
The creative form. Oh, creative formulation, like a form, any kind of creative form.
Right. And so the greeting card is a creative formulation that expresses something that instead of going to the Hallmark store or the Target or whatever where you buy your greeting cards and buying a greeting card that expresses the meaning in words, that you express that connection, you express that feeling, that emotion, which is what connection is, through a creative formulation, in this case, the musical greeting card. And that both are powerful ways we connect.
Yeah, and I really want to talk about and I know we don't have that much time left, but I just
Right.
want to talk about the anxiety, and I don't know if other people feel this, but the anxiety that it won't be appreciated, or the gift that I give will be not seen in the spirit in which I'm giving it, or people will be judging. Basically, I will be judged. And I know that, I mean, I've certainly felt that way about many things in my life. And I'm wondering, Kathleen, you've said these things. You've said symbolism. You said the creative
Formulations?
formulation, and there was something else you said. And so clearly, this is not just something that we're anxious about. This is something that psychologists have been thinking about for years.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just go back to those three? There was another one, and I can't remember what it was. It like
A transitional object.
Yes. Can you talk about that? And can you just give us something that might help us really deepen into, as we are using a transitional object, whether it's a card that we make ourselves or we get at the store, or we're using a video greeting card, as we use a transitional object to share and reveal, hopefully, because I think sometimes we use it to hide. As we do that, what can we do to protect ourselves emotionally so we truly can be present?
Yeah, so all of these concepts, of course, apply in many different areas. So, with gift giving, if it's truly a gift, we're giving it as an expression of our felt connection to the person without any preconceived ideas of how they should respond, and without the attachment of an unconscious need to be seen in order to be validated and to feel like we have value and worth. Because if we send a greeting card with this idea that, okay, if they don't respond, then I must not be a good harpist. They must not care about me. I must not have value or worth to them. We set ourselves up to be hurt because it isn't a free gift. There are
Right.
all of these.
I
It's
see.
it's like it's like a transactional interaction, except the other party doesn't know that.
Yeah, it's almost like setting them up to put us into the victim role. So
That's right.
it's right. Okay. So how, all right. So I think, a lot of us do that when we get scared. So we're talking about full hearted giving of our love, regardless of how the other responds. And that's true whether we are the initiator of the gift or we are the one who has received it.
That's right. That's right. And if there were a 1, 2, 3 formula for how to do that quickly, I would tell you, but I don't have that. I don't know that. What I do know is this is part of the work of analysis and individuation and any spiritual or psychological growth path, is that we really begin to be able to contain ourselves and validate ourselves to where we realize, as one of my analysts used to say, that there's very little that people say or do towards us that has anything to do with us. That if someone doesn't respond, maybe it's because they're overwhelmed with a crisis, they're sick, they saw it and thought, okay, I'll come back to that tonight, and then they got sidetracked. We don't know. We create all kinds of stories. If it's important for you, then you reach back out to that person if it's a relationship that you want to tend. But we have to be able to be honest with ourselves. And we do have to begin to grow enough psychic skin. It's a concept that I like, to do enough psychic skin to be able to say, you know, their non-response, or or their what really has nothing to do with me. That's about where they are today. And is my love for them, is my care for them, is that going to be changed by that, or are you going to hold that? Now maybe next year you don't send them a gift, a musical gift card, because again, if we're in relationships that we tend, we do have needs to be tended back. Again, that's
Well, I
basic.
will say, I'm saying, as you're saying this, I'm thinking, yes, and that's the clever part of the musical greeting card. You're developing your creative skills as you do it. So even if somebody doesn't respond, that I think that's part of the beauty, is that there is and I think this, I love this. I love this. And this is something I'm going to think about, is that with everything I do, with everything I send out, with everything I reach out with, a gift or an offer or whatever it is, that I want to know that I am building my creative and expressive and, vulnerability and willingness to share with every single one, with every single one of them. And as I build that, I am able to be more expressive.
Right.
So I'm seeing this right now as gift giving and gift receiving, no matter what it is actually a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. It's like going to the spiritual gym, and in terms of connections to other people. It reminds me of, like, I used to live in a small town, and every morning there was just all this goodwill. You'd go out and you'd see the grocer and you'd be like, hi, Bob. And, oh, what do you got here? There was this goodwill that gets built, the goodwill. And I think that, I don't know, I just think I'm beginning to just feel like, wow,
Yeah.
I'm all excited. Like, oh, I'm going to give stuff, and I'm going to get stuff, and I'm going to enjoy getting it. Wow, I can't wait. That it's all about the exchange, the connection.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
And the
It's
value
about
of
the
that connection. What is the value of that connection in terms of what it builds for us?
Well, Jung says that what happens when all of our projections on other people fall away, what we're left with is kinship libido, which is the need for human connection. It is fundamentally what matters most.
Okay. Can you
Yeah.
just say that again? Okay, when
Yeah. Once all of our projections onto other people fall away, once we quit seeing them through our distorted lenses, what we're left with, and the reason that we do the hard work of being in relationship, is because what we need more than anything is human connection.
That
Yeah.
is certainly what I needed to hear today. You said the word kinship libido.
Kinship libido. That was the phrase that Jung used as a shorthand to describe human connection. That what kinship libido means is the need for human connection. And human connection is that relational felt warmth that we experience and create together as we engage in the art of conversation with the spirit of giving and receiving.
Well, that is an incredible gift, Kathleen, that you just gave me and all our listeners. That's the spirit with which I hope we all go into the season of giving, which is every season. This is just a reminder. This is just a reminder that this is a time to practice, to have this practice.
That's right.
So thank you again for this beautiful conversation that and the art, the gift of the conversation, which is to go to some place I never anticipated.
Yeah.
It is like finding a gem or a gift.
Yeah.
As the conversation goes, and there's usually that moment where we're like, this was the gift I came here for. Thank you so much, and thank you for everybody, Erin and Emerald and Harp to Heart and Camille and everybody who's given comments, and Elizabeth and everybody who didn't give comments. Thank you so much for being part of this, and I look forward, Kathleen, to seeing you and to seeing others next week as well. And if you do play the harp, go to hipharp.com and go to my blog, and you'll see all about this, how to create these. Actually, you can do it without a harp. You can do it with any instrument, and I will bring my ukulele just to prove that. Because I just believe in it so much as a deep part, as a deep way of giving. And now this kinship, I believe in it even more. I'm so glad for that gift, Kathleen. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. And we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.